Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the Byte Sized Breakdown, and I couldn't be more excited to kick off this journey with you guys and everyone that's listening. Today we're diving into a topic that not only is shaping the future of transportation, but also creating a major stir worldwide: electric vehicles, or better known as EVs. But more importantly, we'll be focusing on South Africa. Are we ready for the electric future? Doesn't feel like a future, feels like sort of a thing that's of the present, or is there still a lot of work to be done? Let's find out. Okay, so first up, let's talk about what vehicles you can actually buy in South Africa right now that are fully electric. I believe there's about 30 to 40 different models that you can buy, and one of the more recent companies that have launched in South Africa is BYD. They have two models, I believe, and I think a third one on the way. But the first one is the Dolphin. So this starts at 540,000 Rand. It comes in two variants, the standard one and the extended range. That's about 600,000 Rand. In terms of range, you're looking at 340 for the standard version and 427 kilometers of range for the extended version. So before the introduction of the Dolphin, we had the GWM Aura and the Atto 3 from BYD as the cheapest electric vehicles you could purchase. The Aura was starting at 690,000 Rand and the Atto starting at 770,000 Rand. In terms of specs, power, range, very similar to the Dolphin, except the Aura only has 126 kilowatts of power across the range. So max price, or for the top of the range version, you'll be paying somewhere around the 900,000 Rand, and only 126 kilowatts of power. So at those prices, it's not looking too affordable. It's not looking too good, in my opinion. I think all of these cars are a little bit expensive, considering the drawbacks as well, particularly in terms of range. And electric cars tend to be more heavy in terms of weight because of the batteries that they have. But at a lower end of the market, we have a small city car from EV Africa called the City Blitz. Starts at about 240,000 Rand. And if I could paint a picture of what this looks like, if you've seen the Bajaj, the yellow Bajaj that are used as like taxis and stuff for short distances, that's what it looks like. In my opinion, at 240,000 Rand, it has too many drawbacks, because first, it only has a top speed of 80 kilometers an hour. 80. So you can't even do the top speed on the highway, first of all, and the range is kept at 160 kilometers. And, that's claimed range. So we definitely know that in the real world, you'll be getting closer to 100 than you will be to 160. And for 240,000 Rand, I think you're better off buying something like a Suzuki Swift GL Plus. You don't have to worry about any of the drawbacks, such as range or performance. So for those looking for something a little bit nicer, a little bit luxurious with some pizzazz, we have models such as the Jaguar I-Pace. This starts at 2.4 million Rand and has a range of 460 kilometers. And then from BMW, we've got the iX range. I think this is the SUV range. They do have the i4, which is like a sedan. But since SUVs are so popular in SA, I think this one is a little bit more relevant. So this one starts at 1.7 million Rand. The iX actually comes in three variants, so the Extra 40, 50, and the M60. The M50 or Extra 50 has a range of 630 and starts at 2.4 million. And the M60, which is the most expensive one, starts at just under 3 million rand and has a range of 564. This one is more performance oriented and has a 0 to 100 of 3.8 seconds. Now, speaking of performance, we have the Porsche Taycan, which is widely regarded as one of the best luxury EVs on the market worldwide. And I think simply because it's made by Porsche, and we know that Porsche makes some very nice vehicles. The Taycan starts at 2.8 million rand, and I think for the most expensive one, you can pay 6 million rand plus. This has 700 kilowatts of power and does a 0 to 100 of just 2.4 seconds. In my opinion, if you're buying a Taycan, I think the range is the least of your worries. This is all about performance. Now, last but not least, we have the Mercedes-Benz EQS. This one starts at 2.7 million rand, and I think it has the best range out of all the cars that we've spoken about today. I think it also has the best range out of a lot of vehicles in the South African market right now. So this has a range of 784 kilometers, which is pretty impressive. And if you wanted the SUV version, they also have an EQS SUV that also starts around the same price as well. So that brings me on to my next topic, which is charging. And I believe this is one of the biggest factors that influence whether you buy an electric vehicle or not, or maybe one of the biggest considerations to make when buying one. So we typically have two types of charging modes, if I can put it like that. We have AC, which is alternating current, and we have DC, which is direct current. AC charging is slower, but it's much more accessible. You can also charge at home. So if you simply take your charger that normally comes with your car and plug it into your wall at home, it's normally AC charging. It's also cheaper than DC. So yeah, cheaper, but you have to wait longer. DC charging, often considered as fast charging, so much more quicker than AC charging, and it's normally found in designated places only. So if I take a place like Midrand, for example, I'm going to use the Grid Cars network. I think Grid Cars has the largest charging network in the country. So there's about 7 or 8 chargers in Midrand as a whole, and only 2 of them have DC capabilities. So there's a DC charger and an AC charger at the BMW in Midrand. There's, I think, 2 chargers at the Mall of Africa, and they also have an AC charger at the Netcare Hospital. So already there's a couple around the Waterfall area. Then I think we've got one in Kyalami and one in Vodaworld, I think. Yeah. So already these chargers are not that accessible to begin with, even the AC ones, because if a charger's at the mall, I believe the mall has working hours, or operating hours rather. The BMW also has operating hours, so I don't think you can just drive in at any time and start charging. I think the nice thing is that the mall maybe might close a little bit late, so if you come back after work, you can go there and charge. But yeah, so only 2 DC chargers that I can see there, and the rest are AC. So to put things into perspective, if you wanted to charge the GWM Aura that we spoke about earlier from 10% to 90% using AC, kept at 7 kilowatts of power, it will take you about 8 to 10 hours. And for the iPace, from 0 to 100, using AC charging, it'll take you 12 to 13 hours. For the Dolphin, 7 hours from 10 to 90%. So looks like if you want the least amount of inconveniences, you need to use the DC chargers, and they do make a difference. For example, if we take the GWM again, if you use a DC charger, it will only take 40 minutes from 10 to 90. And for the iPace, 45 minutes from 10 to 90, and about the same for the Dolphin as well. So, I mean, unless you don't mind waiting, DC is the way to go. The problem with DC is that in Midrand, for example, the only two DC chargers are in a designated place that has operating hours. So the mall has operating hours. I don't think you can just come at any time. And I think it's the same for the DC charger at the BMW as well. So yeah, you need to make sure that you are there before the mall closes, or whatever, which can be hard to do, especially if you're not working from home and you're stuck in traffic and all those things. So yeah. So I think maybe the best option for most people is, if you want to charge on a daily basis, is probably just charging at home. But the problem with charging at home is, I think most people stay in apartments. And when I'm talking about apartments, I'm talking about sectional titles. And most of these have carports instead of garages. And at the carport, I don't really see how you can get a power outlet for you to plug in your charger at. So yeah, it's not a problem for people that are paying 5 million for a Taycan, because I'm sure they probably have houses that have garages which they can just plug in right there and then. But also they probably can afford to just have someone come and install the DC charger at their house. But I mean, that's not an option for everyone. And if you wanted to make a long distance trip, but if you wanted to take a long distance trip, one trip that I know my fellow Limpopians like making, let's say you're leaving from Joburg to Limpopo. The only charger from the last point, let's say somewhere in Pretoria, the last charger is in Pretoria, you fill up in Pretoria. The only place that you can charge again is in Polokwane. And the distance between Polokwane and Pretoria is 200 kilometers of range. And that's just not accessible to everyone. It's not practical for everyone. Let's say you wanted to take a long distance trip. Maybe not long distance, but medium distance. And one trip that my fellow Limpopians like taking is Joburg to Limpopo. So let's say you're leaving somewhere around Roodepoort, Randburg, and you are, setting off, you're going to Limpopo. That's about 300 plus kilometers of distance. And the only charger along the way on the N1 North is in Polokwane. So once you leave Joburg, once you leave Pretoria, there isn't any charger until you get to Polokwane. So you'll have a lot of range anxiety, especially if you are buying one of the more entry-level cars. I'm sure you maybe get there, but let's say you are 200 kilometers from Polokwane, or maybe let me say 100 kilometers from Polokwane, and the car is on 20%. That will give you a lot of anxiety. And unless you're willing to pay 2 million, 3 million for 500 plus of range, then you just have to live with that anxiety. So I think while DC fast charging is convenient, specifically for longer trips, most owners will probably rely on AC charging at home. And like I said, it's not accessible, or I just don't see how it's easily accessible if, you have to park at a carport, you have to, you have to find ways to get around it, like bring some long extension or something. And for people that are traveling regularly, right, we need better fast chargers along the highway, major highways like the N1, for example. And I think this will make EV ownership more practical. And unlike other countries like the US, we don't have any incentives for buying electric vehicles. I think in the US you get tax incentives or there's subsidies or whatever, but there are definitely government initiatives that are encouraging people to go out and buy electric vehicles. And I think once we start seeing something similar in SA, I think that will also encourage more people to, get out of the comfort zone of having a combustion engine car and, trying electric. So I think in summary, we are making progress as a country. I think we are moving forward towards a future that is conducive for electric vehicles. But I just think at the moment there are too many compromises. And I think if you want to sort of get a similar experience to like a normal car, I think you have to spend too much money. So yeah. I think if we keep plugging away, I think we'll find ourselves there. And also, people just love combustion engine cars. I think in South Africa we have the Verpa culture. I mean, it's part of our culture. So I think it's also very hard to just replace that with something that doesn't make any sound or makes fake sound. Anyway, that is it for today's episode, our very first episode. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. And if you have any comments, any thoughts, if I missed anything, let me know in the comment section. Also let me know if you want me to talk about anything specific. And catch you later. Peace.